Look at your x-axis. Range, look at your y. I didn't ask for range. I just got carried away right there. I was having too much fun for those. All right, so 2 absolute value equations. I am worried we may have forgotten how to solve these. What would I do? Got to divide that 3. So I got absolute value of x minus 2 equals 11. Okay, then what do I have to do? Very good. We got to do x minus 2 equals 11 or x minus 2 equals negative 11. Because when we have absolute value bars, what's inside that absolute value could be positive or negative 11, and I'd still get 11, right? So we are going to add the 2, but we've got to break it into two equations first. So once the absolute value bars are by themselves, we break it into 2 equations, and we can add 2 to both sides here, and we will get x equals 13. And we can add 2 to both sides here, and we will get x equals negative 9. Okay? If you don't break it into 2 equations, you'll be missing that second answer. Okay. Questions on that? Peyton, how else could we do it? What could you do in Desmos? Alright, we're gonna let Peyton do that. That's the wrong thing. Did I just close this? No, I didn't. Peyton's gonna do this in Desmos. He's gonna tell us about it. Yeah, he'll let you do it. Okay. I did not let you use a note card on that first test. And these first things come from the first test. But you are welcome to add stuff from Unit 1 to your other note cards, if you would like. Because remember, you can use, you can have 2 note cards, front and back, if you want. If you ended up with the small note cards because you got the last few I had that I passed out, you can have like, I think probably like front and back, and then front side of another one will be about the same as having front and back of a big one. So,
because the y equals, it's not letting me do the 3 before the bracket x minus
2. Those are different. You need to be straight here instead of the square brackets. Okay. Now, for Peyton's going to do that, and I'm going to have him send it to me when he gets it. For inequalities, it's a lot the same, but a little bit different. If I have a less than sign, what type of problem is it? There were and problems and or problems. Okay? Less than is and. Okay? So, we don't have anything on the outside that we have to get rid of. So we're going to have 2 minus 3x is less than 14. And 2 minus 3x is greater than negative 14. So remember on these you have to flip that second one and change the sign. Did you get it to work, Peyton? Let's see. Sent to my email. Let's see. Might be taking a second. I'll look in a second. Let's see. Still spinning. There we go. Alright, so Peyton graphed this for us. Let's see how he did it. He did y equals 3 absolute value of x minus 2. You did y equals 33. Right, so put one side in the top, the other side in the bottom. Right there, we got negative 9. That was one of our answers. Right here, we got 13. That was our other answer. So that works too. Now, I would not do it both ways. Like, you'll run out of time if you're double checking every single thing. So I would not do it both ways at first, but you definitely can go back and double check later. All right, so now that we have these two equations, Sawyer, how would I solve that first one right there? Do please be writing this down too, because I'm going to give you a classwork grade on these. So make sure you've got everything written down. How would I solve that first one, Sawyer? Good. So I get negative 3x is less than 12. Then what would I do? Divide by that negative 3. So I'll get x, I'll get negative 4. What do I have to do right here? I just divided by negative 3. There's something special I've got to do whenever I do that. I got to flip the inequality sign. I've got to make that a greater than sign. If you divide by a negative, you may want to make yourself a note. If you multiply or divide by a negative, flip the inequality. So we got x is greater than negative 4. We're going to do basically the same thing on the second one. We're going to subtract 2. We'll get negative 3. X is greater than negative 16. We'll divide by negative 3. That won't divide, so we're just going to leave it 16 over 3. And we need to flip our inequality sign, which will make this less than. So you don't necessarily have to graph it, but sometimes it helps me to see what I'm looking at. So you got this shaded here, you got this one shaded here. It's all the numbers between negative 4 and 16 over 3. How do I write that answer? We'll do a less than x and then 16 over 3. So you put your, if it's the numbers in between, you put your lowest number first, less than x, less than highest number. Okay, so that would be your answer for this one. That one is harder to do on Desmos. If you do it on Desmos like Peyton did, it will at least give you the numbers. So you'll at least have your negative 4 and your 16 over 3. It will not really show you if it's like the numbers between or on the outside. But it might narrow down your choices if nothing else. Okay, questions? All right, 4. This one can be typed into Desmos. But typing that whole thing into Desmos just to find f of 0 is going to take a really long time. So instead, I would really suggest doing this by hand. You can still use your calculator to evaluate if you need to. But which of these equations would I use if I'm finding f of 0? Okay, that second one, the one in the middle. Gosh, why does it keep doing that? It's getting on my nerves. Okay, so that middle one right there, we are choosing that one because 0 is like a cutoff point, right? 0 is actually for the middle and the bottom one, but the or equals to sign is up here, so we're going to use that one. And we're just plugging 0 in, so it's going to be 3 to the 0 power minus 4. And 3 to the 0 power is 1. 1 minus 4 is negative 3. So negative 3 would be our answer for that. And feel free to type 3 to the 0 power minus 4 into your calculator. You may have forgotten 3 to the 0 is 1. It feels like it should be 0, but it is not. Okay, questions here? All right. Example 5. We've got to find the inverse of f of x equals x minus 2 to the third power minus 5. So, first of all, f of x is really just like having a y, correct? So, it's a little. What do we do if we're looking for an inverse? Switch those x and y. So, we're going to have x equals y minus 2 to the third minus 5. Okay, then you have to solve for this new y, right? So, Addie, what's the first thing we would do? Yes, perfect. We would add that 5. So, that gives us x plus 5 equals y minus 2 to the third. How do I get rid of that cube? That's what's got to go next. Almost. Not a square root, but not a log, a cube root. It is a cube root. So it's like a square root, but it's got the little 3 out front. If it was second power, we would use a square root. Third power, we use a cube root. If it was fifth power, we use a fifth root. It's probably going to be a third power, though. So we got, let's go over here. Now we got the cube root of x plus 5 is going to equal y minus 2. Miles, what's the last thing we would do? What's the last thing we would do here to get that y by itself? Okay, we got a y minus 2. We got to get rid of that 2. How would we get rid of that 2? Add that 2. Good. So add that 2. So it would be the cube root of x plus 5 plus 2. The 2 is not underneath the square root. So that would be our inverse. Who can remember how to check that in Desmos? This might be a good thing to add to a... Let's see, the original was what? Y equals x minus 2 to the third minus 5. X minus 2 third minus 5. That was the original. Our answer was cube root, which cube root we're going to go all the way over here. There it is, down at the bottom. Cube root of x plus 5 plus 2. Put the house button right there. Okay? Do you remember how we could tell if this was an inverse? You can change y and x. That's one way you can do it. Like if I change this to an x and this to a y, they should match. And they do. So that's a good sign. Or there's one other thing we can think of. We can see if they cross that diagonal line. What did we type in to get that diagonal line? Y equals x. And if we look there, oh yeah, that looks very symmetric, like we could fold it in half. So that's another way. So like if you see this question multiple choice and you forget how to do it by hand, you could graph them and see which one looks like it's reflected there. Okay, so that might be something good to add to a note card too about that y equals x. All right, questions? Now, we're going to do these by hand, but Peyton, I say Peyton because Peyton is a big fan of Desmos. Well, a much bigger fan of Desmos than doing things by hand.
Oh, yeah.
Yes.
There's a difference. I can't.
big fan of Desmos. So, like, the first one we're going to do it by hand here in a second. But, Peyton, what if maybe you forgot how to do this? How could you do it with Desmos? What would you do?
Y equals 3 to the x, and y equals 22.
And y, oops, next line, y equals 22. Right there it is. 2.814. Right?
So,
So,
Desmos t-shirt, would you like give us some extra credit?
love.
Would I get some like any?
Uh,
Would I get like
I
2 points on?
Probably should not do that because it's kind of like letting you bribe me for the points.
If I'm paying $22 for
like,
a shirt, I better
if
get
you're
some.
wanting, I wonder if you can get a Desmos shirt. I don't know.
Desmos t-shirt.
See if that's the option while we continue. So you can just Desmos all these. You can do the harder ones. Like if you do this one, 2 to the 3x plus 4 and 80 right here. Now I don't see it, but that's because it's up here. There's my answer. All right. So you can Desmos all these, but let's look at how to do them by hand. Also, how do I get rid of a 3 when I have 3 to the x power? I need to log with a base of 3. And so x equals log base 3 of 22, which you can type into Desmos, or if you want to use the calculator, I'm just going to use the calculator. If we use the calculator, remind me how I type it in the calculator. Log 22 divided by log 3, or use Desmos, 2.814.
Yes, I did.
You found one?
20 bucks. You can get a swag pack for 45.
Need to look into that.
Can't be a real thing.
Oh, with the sweatshirt. Oh,
Sweatshirt's $50, but
yeah,
I'm not that big.
yeah,
I'd grab a t-shirt.
yeah.
Give me a little extra credit.
Well, I probably can't offer extra credit for it, Peyton, but
Probably need to spend a little
if you're
more.
thinking of buying me a Christmas gift, then
Everybody's got shit in.
nah.
This is soft
I-
stickers, a bag.
I'll look into that.
45 minutes.
Math swag is my favorite, and some of my t-shirts are like getting kind of ragged, so I need some new ones there. I haven't worn my shoes in a while. You guys seen my math shoes? A student got me those a few years ago. I have some math shoes. I'll wear them sometime soon. They're pretty nice. You're gonna be jealous. All right. So number 7, natural log of x equals 2.5. What's the base on a natural log? Not 10. 10 is when we have log x. So if it says log but there is no base, that has a base of 10. Natural log has a base of e. Okay? So to get rid of natural log, we got to do e to the power on both sides. So x is going to equal e to the 2.5, which we can type into the calculator. So e to the 2.5 is going to be 12.182. Okay. 8 is a little more difficult. It's going to have a couple more steps. So, Laura, what would I do first on number 8? Very good. So now I've got 2 to the 3x equals 76. What do I do next? It feels like you should, but it is not division. because that's 2 to the 3x power. So when you have something that's exponents like that, you got to use a log to get rid of it. So you would log with a base of 2 over here and log with a base of 2 over here. So that would just give you a 3x left right there equals log base 2 of 76. And log base 2 of 76 you can just figure out in the calculator or on Desmos. So log 76 divided by log of 2. And that's going to give us 6.2479. So we got 3x equals 6.24792, and so on. Last thing on this, because we got a 3, what should we do, Laura? Okay, you do actually divide right here, because that's just 3 times x. It's not 3 like to the x power. So we do just divide on that one. And so if we divide over here by 3, we're going to get 2.083. But remember, if perhaps you've forgotten how to do this, you could Desmos it, right? So there are other ways. It's the truth on the actual exam for this too. So use all your resources. I just want you guys to get the right answer. If you have a number raised up to a power, so a number raised up to a power, you have to use a log to get rid of it. If you have just a number right beside of a variable, those two numbers are multiplied together, so you divide to get rid of that number. And then you got the other thing to throw in there that we've done now, like if you have an x squared, right? If you have, that's not a number raised to a power, it's your x raised to a power. So to get rid of an x squared, you could square root. So those 3 are kind of similar. They're a little difficult to keep straight. Okay, number 9. I've got a log with a base of 4. How do I get rid of a log of a base of 4? 4 raised to the power on both sides. So I will get x plus 2 equals 4 to the 3rd, which is 16 times 4 is, let's just do that, 4 to the 3rd is going to give us 64. And then I just got to subtract that 2. So x equals 62 for that. Okay, make sure you got these all down because I'm going to check these in a minute. Okay. All right, we got one more we're going to do, and then we're going to play our game. All right, our last one here is Jericho deposits $35,000 in a bank account that earns 5.2% APR compounded annually. If he does not make any deposits or withdrawals, how much money will be in the account after 8 years? Round your answer to the nearest cent. Okay. Now, this does say compounded annually. We did have a formula for that, right? You can use the formula if you want, but APR means annual, and this is also annual, so you don't have to use the compound interest formula on this. You can. I'll do it both ways for you. You can just do y equals a times b to the x power. So remember that 35,000 is your A. That's your starting value. The B, we need to take 5.2% and change it to a decimal. We do that by moving this 2 places, and we get 0.052, and you have to add a 1 to it. And then our X is our amount of time, so that would be 8 for this. So you are going to just type in 35,000 times times 1.052 to the 8th power, and we get 5,250.42. So 5,250.42 dollars there. If you use compound interest, the formula for that was something like, I don't know if it was A equals P times 1 plus R over N to the N times R. The N is the number of times compounded per year. So if this is compounded annually, how many times is it compounded per year? Annually is just once, right? So I'll show you why you don't have to use the formula for this. So N equals 1, right? So if you use this, it's going to be still, that P is still 3,500. That's the starting value. You've got 1 plus your rate as a decimal, so 0.052, divided by N, which is the number of times compounded per year, which is just 1 for this. And then you've got your N, which is 1, times the, oh, I'm sorry, that should be a T right there, not an R. A T, it's a T. And number of time, the amount of time is 8. So the reason that you don't really have to use annual compounded interest for this, but you can, is because look what happens right here. If I've got 1 plus 0.052 divided by 1, 0.052 divided by 1 is 0.052. And 1 plus 0.052 is 1.052. And 1 times 8 is 8. And that is exactly what we got over here, right? Now, if this was quarterly, monthly, weekly, something like that, I'd have to use compound interest formula. I have a feeling the one you're going to see is probably going to be more like this and probably not compound interest, but could just be a feeling. Don't know. Yes?
This is just like, I guess, an off-topic question. When like it comes to like converting currency, do they have like round years as well?
Yes. Yes. So whenever you are, anytime you're rounding in a money problem, unless it tells you otherwise, do the nearest cent. I try to put it on the questions, but sometimes I forget. If you have a question about rounding on the test tomorrow, though, just ask me. I'll answer those questions. It makes my life easier to not have to go back and give points back if you just round it wrong. So on that exam, I can't, on the like final exam, I can't help you guys with anything. I can't even, pronounce a word for you or anything. But on the actual test, just ask me if you need help with rounding or you're not sure what to round to. Yeah, like if you were like, Miss Hyatt, what's that word right there say? I couldn't say compounded. Like I can't do anything to help you on that test. I can, if your computer messes up, I can help you fix your computer. Or if you don't know how to highlight, I can show you what button to click to highlight something. But as far as like anything about the question, I cannot help you at all on that. On the final exam. Tomorrow's test, on tomorrow's test, you can ask me anything you want. I may or may not answer it, but you can ask me anything you want. Rounding questions, I will answer that. Okay? Alright, so we're going to play a game. And I'm going to actually go in here and change this because we don't have a ton of time. So, I'm going to go over here to, on Canvas, so you'll need your computers for this for sure. On Canvas, there is an assignment down here that says Knockout Questions, Unit 3 Midterm. I'm getting ready to change it a little bit and make it only pull 2 questions instead of 3. So I want to do 3, I just want to do 1 at a time. Let's just do 1 at a time. So we don't have a lot of time here. Game will go faster if I do it this way. Okay. All right. So,